brought a new dimension to Indian batsmanship. He played both fast and slow bowling with consummate skill. He was a shrewd and thoughtful captain. The master craftsman, Sunil Gavaskar, is one of ESPN's legends of cricket.
His 200 super innings.
The Oval, 1979. Sunil Gavaskar scored one of the greatest centuries of modern times, a chanceless and error-free 221 in just over 8 hours.
Magnificent performance for this fine batsman.
I remember listening to commentary on that particular innings because at that time India's ambition as a cricket team was not to lose. You know, they never thought about winning, although we had 2 good wins in the 70s, early 70s in West Indies and England, but I don't think India genuinely believed that they were good to keep winning. So very often they would get into a situation where they were all set to lose a test match with 2 days to go, and then it was up to Sunil Gavaskar to save it. So at that time, you know, saving a match was like winning. You know, there were firecrackers bursting if we saved a game, and Sunil Gavaskar was the man who would do it for us.
Standing just 163 centimetres or 5 feet 4, Gavaskar built his game around a compact defence and the discipline to take only calculated risks.
Now there's a chap who had an insatiable appetite for runs, but he scored them in attractive fashion. Sunil Gavaskar is one of the great players the world's ever seen. He's great rather than very good. Not much of him, but he had a close to perfect technique.
Sonny is probably one of the best players of fast bowling that I played against. His record is sensational, and you know, he played in an era when there were a lot of fast bowlers around, and he did it with style and grace, and with a great determination. He was someone also whose mental abilities matched his physical abilities.
He was the best opening batsman I have seen. In the definition of opening batting has opening batsman has changed in the last sort of 10 years. You see guys like Sehwag, Gale, and you know, Matty Hayden. But Gavaskar played in a different era. You know, I can't imagine any of these players really going out and belting the kind of bowlers that Gavaskar played against.
I think he was technically very sound. He would, you know, smell the ball when he was playing, and coming from an opening batsman, the way he used to play the ball close to the body, you can't expect anything more from an opening batsman, and I think that is one reason why he was a great player.
For my generation, Sunil Gavaskar showed that you could be an Indian batsman, go out and play the fastest bowlers in the world and score runs against them. It was a huge inspiration, and I think it told a generation of batsmen to follow that if you're Indian, you can still play fast bowling.
Gavaskar's captaincy showed the same determination with which he opened the batting. He was an inspiration and role model to younger players in the side.
For me, what stood out about Sunny was he was a fantastic role model, and that was tremendously comforting to the dressing room. It was just that kind of an individual. He was mentally very strong. He was that positive in his mindset that he knew that it was just a matter of time. If he could see the first half an hour or so through, he could get a big score.
Sunil Gavaskar, you know, during that era was the perfect opening batsman that you would have. Great defense, tremendous patience, played the ball late. But little did people realize that here was a small man with huge ambitions on the cricket field, and somebody who never took a backward step. India was lacking self-confidence in world cricket. You know, they had this complex that they were just not good enough, you know, as good as the English or the Australians or the West Indians. Sunil Gavaskar on his own, you know, led by example, and it wasn't hard to get the others to follow him.
Sunil Gavaskar was raised in the cricket-mad city of Mumbai and naturally gravitated to the game.
I think it was easy in Mumbai because Mumbai is a cricket-mad city. So it was easy for a youngster to pick up a bat and play cricket. Also, the fact that my maternal uncle, my mother's elder brother, Madhav Mantri, played for India in a few test matches. He went to England in 1952 and to Pakistan in 1955. So that was an inspiration as well to take up to the game of cricket. So my early heroes were M.L. Jaisima. From Hyderabad in India. Then Conrad Hunt, I watched a lot of his batting. I wanted to bat like him. He had this straightest of back lifts and he had such terrific balance. Then of course there were the heroes then kept on changing according to the teams that came to India that time. So if it was the Australian team that came in 1959-60, then Norman O'Neill was my hero. In 1960 when Pakistan came, Hanif Mohammad was my hero then. But I admired their cricket, loved to watch them play.
Gavaskar honed his batting skills and developed his technique from an early age.
I did get a lot of help from a lot of people, but I think the one major difference to my career was the coaching by T.S. Worthington at the All India Schools Camp, which was held in Hyderabad. He overhauled my technique completely. I was a front-on player, and in the 1 month that I had with him, which was an All India camp, he made me go sideways on, and he told me why sideways on is so important in cricket. So I think his was a real major contribution.
After a successful start to his first-class career, Gavaskar was selected for the 1970-71 tour of the West Indies. He produced the most prolific debut series by a batsman in history, scoring 774 runs at an average of 154.8.
1971 he came to the West Indies, and this little fella comes out and you can't get him out. And people in the West Indies then, of course, after that series, when he completely got on top of the West Indies bowling, they composed a calypso. Now, you compose calypsos about West Indian heroes and about great West Indian cricketers, not about someone from overseas. So that was a great honour for him, the calypso Gavaskar, the Little Master. And he was. And whenever the West Indies played against him, he just seemed to relish the challenge against the West Indies. I think he has more hundreds against the West Indies than anyone else, and he was so difficult to dislodge. Tremendous technique, tremendous concentration, just to keep on going, even against fast bowling, which is coming at him all the time.
After his remarkable performances helped India to its first ever series win against the West Indies, Gavaskar returned home a conquering hero.
Gavaskar returned to India after that West Indies series an absolute hero. I mean, India had won in the West Indies. As far as Indian cricket fans were concerned, a new star had emerged, and this was reinforced when the team then went to England in 1971 and won a series there. And suddenly the Indian cricketers were celebrities, and Gavaskar, as the young emerging hero, was one of the stars of the show.
If he'd become a hero at home, Gavaskar had yet to win universal acclaim overseas. After his impressive debut series, he struggled for a few years. Then in April 1976, Sunil Gavaskar played a pivotal role in a famous Indian victory. The West Indies had set the Indians 403 to win the third test at Port of Spain. Gavaskar made 102, and India won by 6 wickets.
He is technically brilliant. I've never seen anybody as, rarely you see a batsman as balanced. Very little was out of place. I've never seen somebody defend so beautifully. I could watch Gavaskar defending all day. I wouldn't say that about a lot of players. And so there was a precision about his batting, about everything that he did.
After becoming the first Indian batsman to score 4,000 test runs, Gavaskar embarked on his third tour of England in 1979. In the fourth and final test at the Oval, Gavaskar scored his brilliant 221, almost snatching a remarkable victory for India.
I remember that day like it was yesterday. I remember the game perfectly well. I was 18 years old and I was playing a little game of my own, and by the time we got back it was about lunchtime, and I remember telling someone there, why can't we chase these runs? Maybe we can. And as it turned out, we did.
If you have people like Sunil Gavaskar in your team, you can really chase a target of 400 in the second innings, which is kind of impossible in Test match cricket because of the wear and tear on the pitch. It's very, very difficult. But the concentration this man had, he could score any kinds of runs in any kind of conditions. And I think this is why this was the second time he went close to the target of 400. Got 100 in the first one, got 221 in the second.
In 1980, Gavaskar spent the summer playing for Somerset in English county cricket. Also in the side were Viv Richards, Joel Garner and Ian Botham.
I played with him, of course, at Somerset for a year, played a lot of Test cricket against him, thoroughly enjoyed his company, very generous, very warm person, but a magnificent player. He had low centre of gravity, he had great balance, and if he played a bad shot, or what he thought was a bad shot, you'd suddenly see him lean the bat against the stumps or drop it, and he'd do this down the wicket, and he'd just look and look. And I asked him one day, I said, "What are you doing, son?" He said, "He's refocusing. I'm refocusing, and that was wrong. I'm refocusing." And he just used to shut everything out, and then just go back. But he was a great timer with the ball, could work it either side of the wicket, well balanced. He had everything.
Will he make it 9,000?
There it is, that's his 9,000th run.
In the 80s, Gavaskar rewrote record after record. He became the first man to play 100 tests and 200 innings, and the first man to pass 9,000 and then 10,000 test runs.
He made us all proud. I mean, the little man, an opener from India who's never faced fast bowlers. We don't have pitches in India, which are conducive to fast bowling. And he goes and scores runs against Dennis Lillies and Malcolm Marshalls and Andy Roberts with so much of ease. I mean, he did us all proud. The highest run getter in the history of Test cricket at that time when he scored those 10,000 runs. And opening the innings and facing the best bowlers in the world.
What I used to do to practice against the quicker bowlers was ask the Mumbai bowlers, Mumbai new ball bowlers to bowl from say about 18 yards instead of the regulation 22 yards. So that made it a little bit quicker, and occasionally had them bowl with the ball on concrete as well, again where there was a bit more bounce in it. So that's the way I tried to practice against the quicker bowlers, cut down the distance so the ball would come at you quicker, and try to get some practice. Otherwise, you had somebody bowling at you in the nets from about 16 yards, just standing up and bowling, not running up and bowling. But again, that way the ball would come at you quicker, would bounce at you quicker. It got you some practice. It wasn't always enough, but at least it got your reflexes into some sort of motion.
Straight drive from Gavaskar. He's played that shot a few times.
I think his best shot was a straight drive down the ground of the fast bowlers. He got into such great position. He would go back and across against the quickest, and then just wait for them to pitch the ball up, and he would offer the full face of the blade and just punch it down the ground between the mid-on and the bowler. It was an outstanding shot. He played it against all the great fast bowlers.
After winning the 1983 World Cup, Indian hopes were high for the home series against the West Indians in the 1983-84 season. It was a series in which the Indian side struggled against the devastating Caribbean pace attack, all except Gavaskar. In the second test of the series, he equalled Don Bradman's mark of 29 test centuries with a devastating 100 from 94 balls.
What a great innings that was. I was fortunate to be in that team. I was playing that test match, and what an innings that was. I think he had decided the previous night that he is not going to duck anymore. He is not going to, sway away anymore. He's just going to play all his shots, whatever he's got. And he just hooked everybody, Andy Roberts, Michael Holding, Malcolm Marshall, with so much of ease. I mean, that 100, I think that was one of the best hundreds, most aggressive hundreds I've seen from Sunil Gavaskar.
In the final test of the series, Gavaskar broke Bradman's record, compiling a stylish 236 not out.
I think that was a great knock. Again, he scored a 236 not out. And the best part was that before he went into bat, I was just sitting beside him and he just told me that today is the day I've got to show my mettle. I'll have to concentrate harder. And he just scored 236 runs, and I just kept sitting there amazed that this man already planned what he was going to do, and he planned it so quickly and went and achieved it. That was his greatness. That was his quality.
Out of 400 wickets, Sunil Gavaskar is my prize scalp, as they call it, because he was so proper. He will make sure that he'll never give you wicket. He told me recently, Vaz, when you played against me in 87 series, I told myself, I'm never going to give a wicket to this young boy. I said, why? Why is that? You should have just nicked one to me easily. Sunil Gavaskar caught it slip, bowled Wasim Akram. He said, no. That was my plan. So, he was such a planner. He was, again, very his defense was immaculate. Right there behind the ball, he never backed away. One of the greatest of all time.
Gavaskar, to me, was probably the best player, technically, I've seen in probably the last, since my retirement. I'll be quite honest about that. I saw Sunil Gavaskar play for, I think it was the rest of the world, or he might have even played for, it was a special match at Lord's. And all I can remember is Malcolm Marshall bowled to all the different, the different people. And Malcolm made a mess of everybody. And Sunil Gavaskar didn't do anything else but play him every ball. I can't remember a ball getting past him. And I thought, goodness gracious, that was enormous. And have a look at his record in the West Indies, against the West Indies when they had the pace breaks, and his averages and the runs he scored, they really exemplify a player that has got enormous ability. But obviously, if you have got any weaknesses at all in technique, pace bowling will always find it out.
One thing about this little master I would like to tell you is that the more the challenge, the better he would perform. Now, scoring runs against the West Indies would mean the world. 4 best fast bowlers in the world were in the West Indian team when Sunil Gavaskar was playing. So scoring runs against them meant a lot to him. And that's one reason I feel why he could score so many runs against them, was that there was more challenge, that facing 4 fast bowlers, there is no time to breathe, was there. So that is the reason why he scored so many runs against the West Indies.
Gavaskar's not out for 166. A great innings by a truly great player, a legend in his own lifetime, Sunil Gavaskar.
In the final years of his career, Gavaskar's appetite for runs was as insatiable as ever. In cricket's second ever tied test in 1986, he made 90 in the second innings to set the scene for the dramatic final hour.
Gavaskar's contribution to the second tied test in Madras in 1986 was colossal, in that coming into the last day, Australia led by 347 at stumps, and Alan Border made the decision to declare and set India 348 to win. A lot of runs to score on the 5th day of a test, and India then made the decision to go after those runs, and Gavaskar came out and scored 90 and built the platform. It's one of those situations where if Gavaskar hadn't come out and played that innings and set that platform, the tied test would never have occurred.
India failed to make the finals of the 1987 World Cup, and Gavaskar retired. He has continued to provide Indian cricket with his services, going on to become a successful media commentator and taking a role in the game as a respected administrator.
Sunil Gavaskar, I think, has made perhaps the largest contributions amongst all players to Indian cricket outside the cricket field. He got lots of hundreds, and he put India on the world map. He was the first to get to 10,000 and all that. But he was also very conscious about how Indian cricket was being run. So he had this constant conflict with the cricket boards.
Gavaskar left behind a legacy that was to lay the platform for the great Indian batsmen who would follow. His correctness of technique, his determination, and his consistency changed the way Indian cricket was perceived at home and abroad.
When Sunil Gavaskar came into the Indian team and started scoring runs against the West Indies, before that everybody used to say that Indians are not very good against the quicker stuff, and they can't score runs as consistently as other batsmen in the world. But I think Sunil Gavaskar showed it to the world that there are Indians who can really face fast bowling very well. And after that we had quite a few. I mean, G.R. Vishwanath, Dilip Vengsarkar, Mohinder Amarnath, Shrikant, Ravi Shastri, I think everybody faced fast bowling brilliantly. It was just that somebody had to show the way, and I think it was Sunil Gavaskar who showed our batsmen how to face fast bowling.
Sunil Gavaskar, I think, was a very interesting character, very fiery character when he wanted to be, and his, I think, sole mission in the game was to lead India and be the self-respecting Indian who wouldn't take a backward step, and that is what he expected from the players.
One of the things that he did very well was to score a lot of runs against the best team in the world at his time. That I suppose marks out a truly great player. He scored 1300 against West Indies, which is mind boggles when you think about 1300 against those guys without a helmet. Of course, he didn't wear a helmet because he had the option of wearing a helmet later in his life, but he chose not to because he was comfortable the way he was, and nobody watched the ball so closely and carefully. That's why he never got hit on the head.
Sunil Gavaskar played in 125 test matches. He made 10,122 runs at an average of 51.12. He was the first man to make 10,000 test runs, the first to make 30 centuries, the first to play 100 tests, and the first Indian to take 100 catches.
Going purely by numbers, going by the fact that he propped up India's batting for virtually the entire period that he was around, it was only towards the end of his career when the Vengsarkars and the Azharuddins really came into their own as cricketers that he had support. Otherwise, it was just him and Vishwanath. So given the fact that he was carrying a country's batting, and therefore, as you know, in India, carrying really a country's aspirations with him, I think he goes way beyond the numbers he's generated, which are outstanding in any case.
He showed it that as Indians you can go out there and compete with the very best, and his individual success was an inspiration for all the others to find some kind of confidence in world cricket.
Like Alan Border for Australia, Gavaskar often stood between India and defeat. Before him, consistency was not the watchword for Indian batting. His technique and his tenacity paved the way for future stars like Azharuddin, Tendulkar, Dravid and Laxman, and increased worldwide regard for Indian batsmanship. And so Sunil Gavaskar joins the ranks of ESPN's Legends of Cricket.